Let's talk more about this now with Texas Congressman Pat Fallon. He serves in the House Oversight and Armed Services Committee. Congressman Fallon, great to see you again.
John, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
We have American and European officials saying they find it hard to believe that it's a mere coincidence that Putin's invasion did not start until after the Beijing Games. You know, Fred Fleitz, a good friend, had mentioned that this is probably the most likely scenario. So why are we not talking about more sanctions against China? They've been complicit with Putin's war crimes, and let's not forget they've got state-sanctioned genocide happening inside China right now.
So, John, are you saying that we should look out for America's interests first and be tough and project strength and not weakness and wokeness?
Well, I'm not saying that, Congressman, but that has seemed to work in the past.
Really? Okay. Yeah, like how many invasions did Russia launch in the 4 years that President Trump was in office?
0.
How much saber rattling did Russia do in those 4 years?
Not much.
None. Not much. No, so yes, we absolutely have to look at this. We just sent, I led on a letter that we sent to the Biden administration just this past week and asking him to sanction the 35 oligarchs that are complicit with the Putin regime, and also secondary sanctions on all Russian banks and complete removal from SWIFT. Because if we do those three things, it would be really largely near impossible for Russia to trade in energy. Now, they'll probably, as you just mentioned, try to circumvent these sanctions with their relationship, their tight relationship and cozy relationship with China. But then China also risks us. We're with their largest trading partner, so we need to flex some muscle here.
Yeah, and be willing to sacrifice if we're really going to stand up to these countries. There will be, some pain felt here in this country, but when you look at what's happening in Ukraine, comparatively not that difficult. Look, the UN General Assembly also voted symbolically yesterday to condemn Russia for its invasion of Ukraine, but 35 members, including China, abstained. You have Belarus and North Korea and Syria joining Russia and voting against the resolution. I mean, this is, the UN is worthless right now, Congressman Fallon. I mean, what role are they serving? The only thing the UN could actually do here that would be significant is to kick China and Russia off the Security Council. Yep. But they won't do that.
Yeah. No, they won't do that. And the General Assembly, whatever the General Assembly says, as you just mentioned, it's completely symbolism. Russia and Putin, he probably juiced that in and could care less. Somebody that's like an ant yelling at him. He's just going to press forward. But, there were some other countries that were surprised that abstained. India, Mexico, Israel, UAE. Those were kind of puzzling and to scratch your head there. But again, it's just symbolism. We need to look at teeth. This is, as you alluded to, this is an economic siege. Mm-hmm. And Putin is a chess player. And he feels that the West will blink first, therefore he wins, because he's had a pattern of this. In 2008, of course, he stole the 2 provinces in Georgia. In 2014, the Crimea. Yeah, people yelled at him. There were a few sanctions slapped on him, and then we kind of went along with our lives. But we need to absorb a little bit of pain for the ultimate good, because this is something that I don't think he's going to stop here if he takes over the Ukraine. And then I fear what's left on his borders are just NATO countries, and that would be a catastrophe.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about some of these NATO countries that could be in play here, and specifically Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko. He, of course, is an ally of Putin's. He's called himself the last dictator in Europe. Not a good dude. And this week he stood in front of a battle map that appeared to show a planned attack from southern Ukraine into Moldova, which is a former Soviet republic that borders Ukraine and Romania. That begs the question, is Moldova next?
That's the thing with somebody like Putin that does irrational things. This is not in the best interest of Russia, long term, really short, medium, or long term, to invade a sovereign nation in Europe. This is the largest land invasion we've seen since World War II. So he's very short-sighted, and I don't think the Russian people are really behind him. They can't really come out and say, because they're living in an authoritarian regime. And Belarus, for the viewers, if they don't know, Belarus will do whatever.
Yeah.
Putin says. They are an absolute puppet. They are the closest ally. They exist because he lets them. So really, when we talk about Belarus, it's just Russia by another name.
When you look up Russian client state in the dictionary, Belarus is right there on the top of the list.
Number one.
Now, one of the things we've often talked about here are the holdovers from the Obama administration, now currently working in the State Department and at the White House, Jen Psaki being one of them. And she was roundly mocked recently on social media after pointing out that it was President Biden who was vice president the last time Russia decided to invade Ukraine. And here is that clip.
I was at the State Department. The president was the vice president the last time Russia invaded Ukraine. This is a pattern of horror from President Putin and from the cronies around him.
So, yes, it's a pattern, and they should have all known this was going to be the playbook here, but yet you have this administration still trying to sit down with Iran and Russia to negotiate a new nuclear deal, or a new deal with the Iranians, a nuclear deal. I mean, they're lost. What are they doing?
The best English that some of the regimes like Iran and Russia understand is a gun to the face, and strength and consequences and repercussions. And I think that really, again, the last 4 presidents, Russia invaded a country except for one. There's 3 out of 4, and the one was Trump, and he sure as heck projected strength. And the NATO alliance works in so much as we have an Article 5 provision where an attack on one is an attack on all. And that's why I think we're not seeing 200,000 troops and much easier targets like Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, very small Baltic states, because they are part of NATO. And invading them is like akin to invading Nebraska. And we would have a hot war with Russia, and Putin knows that. So he thought Ukraine was easy pickings and he could get away with it because Biden is weak. And you don't think, John, that he was looking at what happened in Afghanistan and licking his chops back then either? I mean, come on.
Of course he was. So it remains to be seen what happens. We'll talk more about what Congress is doing with some of these sanctions coming up later in the show. But, Congressman, always great to talk to you. We appreciate the time.
Thanks, John. God bless you. Take care.